transform the world. This is Dr. Elizabeth Ozua. This is very powerful background. She's doing a lot, and as I've read her bio right now. So before we start, would like to welcome you to briefly take the floor and start today's conversation. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you, dear moderator. Already, I'm very impressed with hearing a little bit about you, where you're coming from, and where you're headed. This is very, very inspiring, and I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing. Keep up the good work. I know you'll do an amazing job today. I also want to thank Duchess for putting all this together. This global connection is something that is priceless. And in times to come, we'll be very grateful that she created this platform for us to share and learn from each other. And to everyone who's taking time to listen, share, and experience this afternoon, I want to say thank you so much for coming and thank you for listening. I am very intrigued with this topic and the general thinking or ethos behind this. It's, Duchess has called it a global connection, and it's empowering us through collaboration. And you can see from the myriad of backgrounds and the countries where we've come from, it is truly a collaboration of people from different walks of life. Today, I've been entrusted to speak about my experience about becoming who I was, to become this new person that I am, and my journey to leadership and impacting people. My story today is a story of transformation, a story of courage, and a story of purpose. I like the fact that our moderator has already moved 2 countries in a very short period of time. That is a little bit like my own story because, first of all, I was born in the UK, went back as a child, grew up in Nigeria, and then had to return to the United Kingdom. So in all these things, I had to keep on morphing and becoming a new person in order for me to become the person I am today. And that's why I call my story that of transformation, that of courage, and that of purpose. Because it takes courage for you to forget everything you've known and relearn new things. It takes courage for you to move from a place of comfort to a place of discomfort and try and learn new things. You have to be purposeful and know what you want in order to make this possible. So my story is one of having, as I said, been born here and when I went back to Nigeria. I now went through secondary school, university, and became a university lecturer. That was my pioneering work into leadership. And then all of a sudden, my husband decided that he wanted to do his postgraduate in the UK. I'm very mindful of time, so I might not be able to tell the story in so much details as I would have loved to. But if we have any questions, feel free to ask later, or we can take it off the platform at a later time and talk more in details about who I am and everything. So, just as I said, I was lecturing in the University of Benin, and then he woke up and decided he wanted to move to the UK. And when I moved to the UK, of course, you're not just going to transfer from being a lecturer there to being a lecturer here in the United Kingdom. That wasn't possible. So I really had to become that lecturer and transform to a new person in order to become the lady who I am today. So truly, my story is the definition of reinvention and impact. Because sometimes we must truly unbecome the identities we cling to in order to step into our real impact. And many a time when God is using us or moving us, he takes us from a place of comfort to discomfort for us to be able to make our impact. I had a settled life. I was enjoying my life, doing the things I really loved, being very successful at what I was doing, and what you would consider a stable and respectable life. Yet destiny had a different global assignment waiting for me. So, having landed in the UK with two very young children who we had uprooted without they having a choice, and even me being uprooted without truly, that wasn't really the pathway I wanted. But being a supportive wife, I was willing to make that happen. Then, having arrived, I didn't want to feel sorry for myself. I needed to find the courage to start life again. And that was why, when I introduced myself, the first thing I said, now my story is a story of transformation, courage, and purpose. Those are three things I'd love for you to remember, those key words. And then going on to reinvent myself and make an impact. The reason why I put these key words is that anyone listening this afternoon can do the same. It doesn't matter what walk of life you're in, it doesn't matter what your background is, as long as you're willing to and you do not give up on yourself, you can make that happen. So, having relocated to the United Kingdom, it meant me leaving titles behind. It meant leaving familiarity behind. It meant leaving status and stepping into the unknown. So, who now is in a position where things are not happening the way you planned or not going according to your plan, and you're having to relearn? I am here to give you hope, to say to you, it is possible and it can be done. From lecturer to learner again. When I landed, I had to do all sorts of jobs to survive. It was a humbling experience. However, it reshaped my perspective and it helped me build resilience. My dad always told us that there was dignity in labor, and that was always in the back of my head. And therefore, any work I did, I never felt ashamed about it, as long as it wasn't something dishonest or illegal, and it helped to put food on the table for my family. I was willing to make it. And in doing that, it gave me growth. So I'm encouraging you, no matter what work of life you found yourself in this season, hold on to everything you have and find the lessons and the purpose, and you'll be amazed at what will come out from there. I had to have an identity shift. I had to become the version of myself that was tied to titles and position. That lecturer, that woman that had a big house, that had a driver, that had all sorts of modcoms, to one who was now living a completely different life. But you know what? I never allow that to define me. Where are you today? Even if it's not what you want, do not let that define you. Because the moment you do that, you take your hand off the handle, and guess what? You start falling apart. So I had to discover, who is Elizabeth? What stuff is Elizabeth made of? What can I do in this new environment that can empower me, not just me, my family, and all the people around me that looked up to me? Even when people told me that things were not possible, I never saw my life from other people's lenses. I saw it from my own lens, and you know what? I created and I moved barriers. And all these things were done in my mind. The mind is a powerful instrument. What are you doing with your mind? So that identity shift I'm talking about happens in the head. It is what you see of yourself. That is what you can become. You have to see the finished product. I saw myself as still that successful person, even if it was no longer in the corridors of a university. I knew that whatever I decided to do, I was going to become successful. So, as I mentioned earlier, I transited too many different types of jobs. I did whatever I had to do at that point in time. I knew I wasn't just going to lose hope and lose focus. So, I sold in the shop. I operated till things I've never done before. I help people look after their children. Apart from my own children, I had never done that before. But as I said, I remember that key word, there's dignity in labor. While I was doing this, I eventually found a job with London Transport. I'll move on very quickly because we haven't got much time. And while I was working with the London Transport in the Jubilee Line extension, we built the Jubilee Line then in their document control department. I met a woman who was in direct selling and introduced me to selling encyclopedia. In one weekend, I sold £10,000 worth of encyclopedia in one weekend. And I've never sold anything before. But I was able to do that because I was a willing person. And as I said, I had to relearn new skills. I never even knew I could sell a pencil, never mind sell that amount of worth of encyclopedia in one weekend. And then end a trip to go to Hawaii. Cut a long story short, while I was on that trip, I met a lady who mentioned Mary Kay to me and mentioned the fact that I could earn as much as 40%. My eyes were open. And immediately I computed the figures. And then I knew that if I stayed focused, for focus means to me, follow one course until successful, that I'll do very well. I signed up immediately and I started learning. I'd never done anything in beauty and skincare or cosmetics before then, but as I'm a willing student and I'm an open book, I was ready to learn. So my introduction to Mary Kay Cosmetics opened a new door, not just for income, but for personal development, for entrepreneurship, and for leadership. That's what Mary Kay has done for me. It made me see possibilities where people saw limitations. Even some people laughed at me and thought, you know what? She used to be a lecturer. Now she's selling lipsticks. I only saw the lipsticks as a vehicle to becoming. It doesn't matter where you are. How are you seeing the environment where you are? Because it's what you're seeing, which other people are not seeing, that will get you to the places you want to go to. So I saw this as a vehicle, as I said, for my personal development, to become an entrepreneur and also to move into leadership. And that's exactly what I did. And I never saw any limitations. So while many people underestimated direct selling, I saw the vehicle on how I could use it to make an impact, not just on me, but for my family and for our community then. A way of empowering people and having independence and control in the things that I was doing, as well as influencing people positively. Because these things are very key. So, seeing this, working consistently, believing in myself and in the opportunity, amazing things began to happen. So, through determination, discipline, and faith, I rose through the ranks at an astonishing speed, proving that the background does not limit your destiny. And that was why I said initially this topic of truly unbecoming, so that you can become something, is something really up my street, because I am a true example of that happening. I went, sat down, learned everything I could do, practiced, practice, practice, because practice makes permanent. And I didn't let the citadels of academia blind what the possibilities were in the field of selling. If anything, that kind of helped me because what I saw myself doing was teaching skincare. So if I was no longer teaching from the academic point of view, I was teaching from the practical point of view. You see how I shifted my brain? And that truly, truly helped me in becoming this new person and in succeeding in the things I did. Consistency is key in being successful in anything you're doing. As you change year, as you change season, if you're not consistent, you're not going to make an impact. My consistency is what really truly made me succeed in a very short period of time. And I never allowed my background limit me. I became the first national sales director, reaching that top position in the United Kingdom and Ireland because of that consistency, because of that servant attitude, and because of that willingness to keep going, even when it looked bleak. And in doing that, I broke barriers. I created a path for others to follow. The question I want to ask you today, who are you ready to create a path for? Who are you ready to lead so that they can become successful? It doesn't matter where you are in life. What matters is what you have in your head and in your mind. So, becoming the first, I didn't let that get into my head. I just saw that as an opportunity to encourage other people to say to them, you know what? You too can do the same. You can lead. You can become successful. You can change your career path. You can do many things you never imagined you can do as long as you're willing to try. So my mission evolved from selling products to developing women. As I was selling products, making money, and doing many things, I could say to them, you too can do the same. Very quickly, I give you an example. The first task I set myself was we were going to buy a property. And the first day I told my husband that, he had a good laugh. He's like, how is this going to happen? But the beauty about when you're in control, only you can decide what you can do. And he set me a challenge and he said to me, if you make this X amount of money, we'll start looking for a property. Cut a long story short, I did that. And we were able to buy our first property. Having moved into that next property, because one of the things I'll encourage you, when you set a goal, when you achieve that goal, go on to the next goal. I now said to the family, I will pay for all of us to go to Disney World, Florida. My husband had another laugh. He thought, this is not possible. Where are you going to find the money? I put myself out there. I continued to perfect my skills. I cut a long story short, we achieved that goal. I can sit here now and tell you many more goals that I achieved. But today, it's not about me. Today is about encouraging everybody that is on this call to say to you, you know what? All things are possible to those who believe and are willing to do the work. I can do all things through God who strengthens me. Each and every one of us has been given so much power. God had no time to create a nobody. We are all somebody. What are you doing with that somebody who you are? So, in becoming the first, I learned to lead and empower others. I showed them the path to say, if we go through this path, you will be living the kind of life that I'm living. You will be achieving the kind of goals I'm achieving. And I am happy to say that many women chose that path and did well. And I can tell you on this call that our Minister of Women's Affairs and Social Welfare, Iman Suleiman, was one of the directors who went through that path. And even recently, when she was in the UK a couple of days ago, she publicly acknowledged that those skills which she learned from this business help her to become the woman she is today. This is on record. I'm not making it up. And she always says that. So, my whole thing to you today is for you to find that courage that sometimes you've come to the end of where you are on a particular mission. It's time for you to transform. Find that courage. Ask God what your purpose is and how you can use it to impact people. Build your confidence and find others who will go on this same path with you so that you can lead them and show them the things that are possible. Learn to impact people beyond titles. Title is just a name. It is what you do that people will remember you for. Today, my story reminds others that sometimes you must unbecome who you are so that you can become truly who God wants you to be. I want to believe that if I probably didn't make that move to where I am today, I might not have had that opportunity to make the kind of impact I've made on so many people. John Maxwell once said, change is inevitable, but growth is optional. So sometimes when you're relocated or when you find yourself in a place where you didn't plan to, are you willing to grow when that happens? Because when you choose growth, that is when you make an impact. I know my time is up. I would have loved to share more with you, but I want to remind you as I conclude that complexity is the enemy of execution. Sometimes we make our life very complex, and in the process, it becomes impossible for us to execute the things we want to do. When you keep things simple, you will have your breakthrough moment. I kept my business with Mary Kay simple. I had my breakthrough moment. I found a strategy. I worked my strategy. I told my story, and my story resonated with people, and they listened to me and they joined me on the journey. And you know what? That is what has put me where I am today and continues to project me. Because your story controls your life. If you change your story, you change your life. And I know that everyone on this call can do so much more. And as we do that, we change the whole of Africa. Africa, it is our turn to shine. Duchess, thank you once more for this opportunity to share my story. I wish I had more time to talk more, but I know that when we have all the conferences which she organizes, we'll have breakout rooms where we can share more and we are able to impact people and help others to grow. Remember, execution trumps knowledge. Knowledge without execution is powerless. People say knowledge is power, but if you have the knowledge and you don't execute, it's powerless. Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone, or good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mom. I don't know what happened to her as I don't know what happened to her. I think she dropped off. Oh, but while she's trying to join back in,
Yeah.
I while you're talking, I had a question. I remember there was a day, I think there was a time I was traveling to Singapore, and I had this. You know, sometimes you feel unworthy. I mean, I had this like imposter syndrome kind of moment, and I had to like reaffirm and reconfirm and reaffirm that, but like, look, you can do some this. My question is, being the first director for Mary Kay, first minority director for Mary Kay, have you ever had that kind of moment before? And how did you actually deal with it?
Thank you so much. That's a very, very, very powerful question. if you remember, no, it's not first. I wasn't the first director. I was the first national sales director,
National.
highest position. Yeah, there were directors before me, but I was the first one to get to that highest position. Remember I talked about mindset when I was speaking earlier, and I said, "What do you think about yourself?" You see, the imposter syndrome is a limiting story, something that limits what you can do. And when that kind of idea comes into your head, it's up to you to remind yourself that this is just a distraction, and you get yourself into action, because emotion is created by motion. When you're working and you keep going, you don't even have the time to think about it. And when you're working, remember I talked so much about consistency. When you're consistently doing the things you're doing, you don't have time to start thinking about imposter syndrome. But when it does happen to you, it's also good if you have a mentor. So mentorship is very crucial. I always encourage people, either you have a mentor or a coach. Every good team in this world, be it in sports or what have you, they have a coach. Those are the people you go to in the moments when you're not very sure, and they speak belief into you, and they go through things with you, and you reaffirm yourself. Because if you remember what I said before, God had no time to make a nobody. So you are somebody. I am somebody. We are us somebody. And when you remember that, you just keep going and you will become so successful. And thank you. That's a very important question.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Akuzike, are you in now? So she dropped off. I don't know if anyone have any question for Dr. Elizabeth. Please feel free to ask your question while Akuzike is trying to find our way back. Hello, I don't know if someone is talking. We can't hear you.
If you're having you could put questions in the chat. If you put questions in the chat, sometimes
Yeah.
if for instance,
Akuzike, you need to unmute yourself because we can't see you. Because I'm sure she has one or two questions to ask you as well. I'm not sure if anyone have any questions. Please do ask. The floor is yours.
yes, someone said impact is very important. I completely agree with you. The impact, because people are always watching you, even your own children, your family members, your friends, they're always watching you. The things you do impacts on them. So it is always very important that you think about that while you're doing that. So once you do that, it helps you. Even the moments when do you know the funny thing? Sometimes you think people, like you're talking about imposter syndrome. You who's thinking you are an imposter, people are sitting down admiring you and thinking, I wish I could.
Exactly. I think, yes. I
They
think
won't even know, you don't even know how you're navigating yourself. But they're admiring you and thinking, I wish I can be like you. So keep going.
Yeah, I
Keep
think
going.
about that moment as well.
In the
Yeah.
process, you will become an expert in what you do, because extraordinary feelings give you an extraordinary life. And the extraordinary life will come because you have that feeling to keep going and doing the things you need to do.
Thank you so much. Akuzike, are you taking over now?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm sorry my network misbehaved, but I really, really loved your presentation. I don't know if I'm clear.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. What I loved about your presentation, you talked about an emphasis on transformation, courage, and purpose. You said these are the three terms that we are supposed to live by. But also, I loved what you have lived by: determination, discipline, and faith. These are really things that we really need to apply in life. I really loved your story, but also issues concerning consistency. Consistency is key. I have some questions. I have some few questions before the next speaker comes in. In your experience as a woman who has served like in a higher position, being the executive director of Mary Kay, like you have explained, what are the most common barriers that actually prevent women from collectively, effectively, and how women like are affected in these leadership positions? What are the challenges that they meet when they are actually in these high positions or to reach this high position?
Well, I mean, I will always go back to the person who you are. The person who you are speaks a lot about who you go on to become. And that was why one of the things I talked about was self-development, personal development. As a woman and a leader, and a person, it's not exclusive to women alone. If you continue to develop yourself, you will continue to grow. Personal development is so key. It's often said that standing still is the equivalent of going backwards. You know why? You're standing there, people catch up with you, they go past you, and before you know, you're now behind them. So once you're developing yourself and you're consistent at what you're doing, your knowledge will be increasing. And in doing so, you're able to rise. And you rise because you have the confidence. And as you rise, you take people with you. And these are the people who are like a net behind you, looking up to you, watching out for you, rooting for you. And I love the fact that Duchess always talks about collaboration. And she leaves that example. When we collaborate with each other, we are powerful beyond measure and we are able to do so much more. And that's why I love that South African word, Ubuntu. When we do
Yeah.
work together, we do so much more and we
Yeah.
watch each other back. I so much believe in that. And that's what this global connection is all about. And that's how we empower each other. Thank you for that question, Akuziki. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll ask a last question. I think I'm not seeing hands, so maybe I can ask for someone else. Okay, in the process of unbecoming, you've talked about you underwent a process of unbecoming for you to become a lecturer, from transitioning from Benin to care, you have talked about that process. What challenges can one face in the process of unbecoming? For you, like, you want to change, you want to transition, you want to experience that life in a better way. Like you have said, issues concerning setting goals. What next? What will my life be next? Issues concerning that. How can you like advise someone who is in this process of unbecoming?
Well, the greatest thing I keep saying, it starts with you. And you have to make a decision that I am willing to leave my past behind. I come across a lot of ladies, they keep talking about their past. That is your past. You're no longer there. Live there. Think about where you are now and where you're headed. So, unbecoming means I am no longer who I am or was yesterday. I am who I am now, and this is where I'm heading to. What are the hurdles I need to clear to get to the next level? What are the lessons that I need to learn to make things happen? Because life is a state. What state should I be in at this point in time in order for me to make progress and continue to do well? It is so, so important that you have that in the back of your mind. And then find people who are in this new area where you're headed so that you learn from them. I invested in myself. I bought tickets then and traveled to the States to go and learn from people who had gone before me, even before I was making money. Sometimes we're not willing to spend money. A business person is someone who uses money to make money. Sometimes you have to speculate for you to accumulate. Remember that. So, in doing that, you gain the knowledge and then you're able to do more. And then you learn skills that are duplicable, which you can pass on to other people. Those things will help you as you move. And remember, life is a season. We all experience seasons at different times. We in the UK now are moving into spring, having coming out from winter, as we are looking forward to getting to from spring to summer. When you know that you'll keep moving from one season to another, it gives you hope, it gives you something to look forward to, and then you keep on working to get to the next level. I hope that
Thank you so
helped to answer
much.
that question.
You
Yes,
have
that
one
really
question in the chat. I think after that we can move on to the next speaker.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Who are yet to become, what direction can we take? Oh, yes. So say the question is, what advice can you give to young women like us who are yet to become? What direction can we take? My first answer to that question will be, what is your passion? In my own case, I had to become, not out of choice. It was taken out of my control. However, if you are where you are now, you haven't started becoming. I would say, what is it? If you were never paid a penny, you will be willing to do it. Because that is something that you're operating from your comfort zone and you succeed. Like footballers, if you watch footballers, they will always kick a ball around the house everywhere, even if you never paid them a penny. And that is why when the talent scout finds them and they coach them, they do so well. There are many things we can do today. In fact, the world where we are now, we are so lucky, because when you go on YouTube, you go online, there are many things you can find. Find where you have your passion. Look on the various social media platforms and choose a niche area where you think you can thrive. That is where you excel. I can say to you, do XYZ. But if that's not where you're comfortable, you're not going to shine. I think I shone in Mary Kay because not only did I accept this new thing, I was willing to learn the ropes, I was happy to execute the moves, and I was willing to strategize and do the things I needed to do to succeed. So, a short answer to that is to become, find something that you're comfortable and happy with, even if it's cooking food on the streets, even if it's making clothes, even if it's making hair, whatever, but something that you're very passionate about, and put your energy there. You'll be amazed at the results you'll get from that. I hope that answers that question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Elizabeth. It was really nice having you on board. We have really learned a lot this evening, that your background shouldn't determine where you're going, shouldn't limit your destiny. You are capable of doing everything. Thank you so much for having us and for agreeing to be one of the panelists. It was really, really great interacting with you. We have really, really learned a lot.
Thank you
So we
so
are
much.
going to proceed. Thank you.
And
We are
thank
going
you.
to proceed. Yes, we are going to proceed with our panel. We also have Edith Wautanika Dingy. I'm sorry if I haven't pronounced the name properly. I'll briefly read her bio so that you should know who is coming next. Edith is a distinguished leader and a formidable advocate for the global music community. As a vice president of the International Federation of Musicians and president of Zimbabwe Musicians Union, she stands at the forefront of initiatives that protect and empower artists worldwide. Her tenure at the helm of Zimbabwe Music Union reflects a tireless dedication to the welfare of musicians in her homeland, while her international role allows her to shape policy and ensures creative voices resonate on the world stage. Her influence has not gone unnoticed. She has recently been honored with Finland's prestige Nikiri Award as a testament to her enduring impact on music advocacy. Edith's commitment to her field is matched by her pursuit of an executive MBA with a Quentin Business School, blending strategic women with on-the-ground experience to navigate an evolving industry. More than a leader, she's a catalyst for change, working relentlessly to build a sustainable and prosperous future for musicians in Zimbabwe, across Africa, and beyond. So now we are going to invite Edith to the stage, whereby she's going to be our second speaker. We want to hear from you on this topic of Global Connect, empowering women through collaboration and becoming who I was, a woman's journey to leadership and impact. Please take the floor.
Hi, everyone. Hello, I'm so sorry I joined in a little bit late, but that message from, Dr. Mary is just amazing. It speaks volumes about the amount of things that as women we go through in becoming who we are today and in inspiring the future generations. My name is Edith Weutonga Katiji. I am a Zimbabwean musician who is currently based in the UK right now and doing amazing work, I want to believe. And I'm just happy that we have you guys here. So, maybe just to give you a brief background about who exactly I am. I was born in Zimbabwe in a little town called Kadoma. And I think I was just born around music because my grandparents and my uncles, everyone was a conductor, someone was a soloist in the choir. And that's where my journey began. And then in my teen years, high school, took a very important role in making sure that my musical awareness, is improved. And then when I finished my GCSEs, I went to a training center in Bulawayo, which is the second capital in Zimbabwe, where I trained as a theater actress, as a dancer. And immediately I was featured on a television drama series, on a theater production, and I was in a jazz band, and everything just happened at the same time. But what that did is it just taught me the amount of resilience that we have in us, especially when you're thrown in the deep end and you don't realize that the only thing that you want when you're thrown in the deep end is to get out of there. You want to swim up and be in a space where you can waddle well. But for you to do that, you must endure, the strength of that water. You must endure everything else that's in the water that's trying to go in the same direction as you are. And at Amakosi, I had to learn to become, the best I could be in being an actress and being a musician and a dancer at the same time where my director saw an opportunity for me. I think he saw beyond what I was seeing in that moment that I was a project coordinator for the projects that were happening at Amakosi. And there, my eyes were opened to how a theater production is coordinated. What happens when people are creating a short film for television or a drama series? The budgets, you have to work with numbers. And maths was not my favorite subject at school. And you're working with numbers in the office, and you're working with doing everything on time, coordinating that if people are moving from point A to point B, who lives the farthest, who is going to be picked up, and making sure that everyone gets to a point on time. That taught me the power of being able to do what right now we call project management, and people are doing Gantt charts and they are putting everything to say, okay, this is what happens at this time, and we should have done and achieved this at that time. That was my first time without training in the year 2000, just being thrown in the deep end to be able to manage to do those things. And I learned a lot. Fast forward, I want to say in the year 2009, as I was pursuing my musical journey, I was involved in a fatal car crash where people died. It was a head on collision, and I was pregnant with my twins, and I was in a coma thereafter. And that's how Edith Weutonga was born. Before that, I was doing music, yes, but I think coming out of that coma and coming out of it with my children intact and they normal, and I had scars on my face that for so many people, I think if just the outlook is what people wanted to see, I wouldn't have gone back on stage to perform because my face was messed up. And by doctor's description, my face was asymmetrical. So you can imagine if you took a bun and you crushed it with your hands and the shape just goes all over. That's how my face was. And this was 2009. Stayed in hospital and I was in a coma. When I got out of the coma, I remember very well that the first thing that I saw was the light coming in from the right. And I lay on that bed. And that's how Edith Utonga was born, because Utonga is not my surname. Utonga in the Shona Zimbabwean language means the first light of day. And I wanted everybody that I impact to feel the freshness of a new day, no matter the circumstance, that in whatever that I do, I was going to be a force for change in their life, even if it's in the very smallest way or it's in a very large way. And so I got out of the coma, I gave birth to my babies, and in 2010, after healing, I think I decided we were going to launch this project called Utonga. And that was my first album. The first album got musical reviews and opened doors for me to tour in West Africa, in East Africa, as well as in Central Africa. And on that journey, the one thing that stood out is that I'm a musician who plays the bass guitar. And not only am I playing the bass guitar, I'm also leading in the band. And by our standards and our society, in African society, a child who decides to go and pursue music is, in our society, where I come from, judging by how mother-in-law welcomed me in the family, that was not acceptable. I mean, who marries a girl who is in front of a lot of men admiring her, and you take that and you bring that into the home? Until I took my mother-in-law to my office, which was my stage when I was performing at a festival. Did she understand that, look, I had never imagined that when one is going to work, this is the kind of work that you do. It has all been based on perception. Again, I want you to pick a point there. That is, do not allow the people around you, how they judge you, to be the determinant of what you're going to become. Because if you do it based on what people are going to say about you, you're not going to go anywhere. And so I carried on with my career. My mother-in-law was not happy until one day I brought her to my office and she said, "Oh, okay, is this what you do? Oh, I'd never imagined, you see." Moving on from there, that was 2015. I want to say 2014, 2015. That was the beginning of the Zimbabwe Musicians Union. Musicians were talking on WhatsApp. You know how you're always discussing on WhatsApp, oh, we have this problem, things are not going well economically, politically, and we have all these challenges that are happening around us. Until as musicians, we agreed, but why don't we leave the WhatsApp platform and meet in person and make a way forward? And we all agreed to meet at a spot where musicians would always gather. And there I was elected or nominated to be a steering chairperson to drive the force behind a union of musicians that would help address the challenges that musicians were facing. Mind you, there were over 96, musicians that had turned up for that meeting. And I want to say out of that 96 to 100, maybe 25% was women and the rest were men. Maybe 40% was older men in that audience that came on that day. But once people were nominated, my name was picked up by somebody to say, no, if this thing is going to move forward, allow Edith to be the person to steer you in that direction. I didn't have any knowledge about running a union. I'd never been a worker in that, sense. And the first thing that I did with the committee of 26 musicians was to then say, okay, we need to go and register ourselves. And upon going to the National Arts Council to find how we register, we were told you needed to have a constitution. So we started working on a constitution. Again, this is something that I'd never done. I'd been in the music sector for nearly 16 years by that time, but I did not have the experience of being a union leader. And so we started looking around, looking at documents, and that took a lot of time. And I remember one elderly man saying to me, "My daughter, I hope you are prepared to be hated. I hope you're prepared to be a marked person because this role that you're taking is a role that's going to create a lot of problems for you." I said, "Really? Okay, bring it on. Let's see how far we can go." But I did not anticipate, in the way that he said it, because they were coming from a point of they had tried to even register a union. It never took off. And it was just a union that was led by men and it failed. And he openly said it was the egos that ruled in the room and we failed to do it. And so you are in a space where you're a woman. And I'm not saying it's okay to endure pain, but you have more endurance in you. And so what happened was, from the time that we started registering to the point where we got registered, so we started in July, we got registered in December of 2014. And from then onwards, word has gotten around that there is a union, and the National Arts Council has given this union a national mandate to create a union for all the musicians in the country. My problem started. And so I had stones in all forms being thrown in my direction to try and, downplay the work that I've done as a musician, to try and, kill my character as a mother, as a woman, as a wife. And all these things were happening while I kept on pushing to get to the goal of the mandate that were given by the National Arts Council. In the process, you begin to discover that women are a section of society in our sector that is being harassed, that is being abused, and all these things are happening in silence, and no one has the guts to talk about them. And I remember someone sending me a screenshot and saying, you do realize that people are looking for something to use against you. And someone says, who has the files on Edith? And so when you are going towards a particular goal and you have taken it upon you to say, I'm willing to lose a lot of things, lose friends, lose some connections in order to become the person that I want to become, it comes at a price. But believe me, the goal is critical. And I want to say that in the work that I've done, I managed to register the union with the International Federation of Musicians, which is a bigger organization of musicians across the world with more than 90, 70 countries, I want to say, and others that are queuing up to register. So we have countries from Africa, and countries from Europe, Asia, and, the US. And so we found ourselves in there, and my eyes even opened more. And by virtue of standing up and speaking out, and what I was learning there, and what I was getting trained in participating and networking with other countries, got me invited to other African countries to speak to women in music, to speak to women in the different cultures that are doing work within the arts sector. So, for example, I'll tell you, I've been to Kenya, I've been to Malawi, I've been to Mauritius, I've been to Tanzania, and in all these places, we've conducted workshops on building gender-specific desks, especially for women. But on those desks, what we've also realized through the process is the more we empower women, the bigger the gap between the men and the women in any society, not just for musicians. And so there is also a need to create a balance where when we are empowering our women, we must find a way to make sure that the men that we're operating with in this society are getting also the knowledge on how to handle the empowered women, one, and on how to work to support the women that are getting all this knowledge and that are getting empowered, because the gap becomes so huge and they think it's just an agenda for women that is discriminating against our boy child. And the work that we have done within the union, I remember initiating something called Women's Voices. We did a 71 Women's Voices in Zimbabwe where we recorded women in music from different provinces. We have 10 provinces in the country, and we wanted to record an album that celebrates, that amplifies the challenges women are facing, but also celebrating women, but also speaking to the hierarchy, to the higher powers on the issues that need addressing within the society. Some said it cannot happen. Some said, oh, this is just women, being crybabies again. But this Woman of Essence album was recorded, and it speaks volumes to the amount of work and things that women have been going through and calling on the authorities to address these issues. But away from creating this body of work, I've been invited to be part of the Zimbabwe National Music Strategy, where I was part of the minds that set to write down this music strategy so that could be implemented in the country, to address on the business side, on the business framework, the amount of work that we need to put in to make sure Zimbabwe's music and musicians are treated as a business. And our core business as a union is to make sure that musicians are recognized as workers. And so again, 2023, 2024, we went on a 10 province campaign of musician as a worker. And Musician as a Worker campaign helped us again see the challenges in the very small pockets of communities in our provinces where, people know I'm running to Lagos because that's where everything is happening. But you're forgetting that in that other state, there are things that are happening, but because there's no one to help them get amplified, a lot of things go unnoticed and challenged. And so that's what we've been doing as a union. And our work has enabled us to collaborate with, I don't know if we've heard of Music in Africa Foundation, where we are conducting a gender at work training program that's training women in the arts to be sound engineers, stage managers, artist managers, being technical people and people that are not just, somebody used to say, oh, the reason why women are in bands is they're just there to attract men. They're just there to attract audiences. So they have to look good, they have to dress skimpy, they have to, blah, blah, blah. But now we're saying in a band, a woman's position, she has every right, like any other person on there. She can be the one doing the lights. She can be the one doing the sound. She can be like me, playing the bass guitar. I want to believe I'm one of maybe 2 or 3 women in Zimbabwe, but one that has gone on to be internationally recognized. As I sit here right now on Tuesday, I was at an award ceremony where I was a nominee for Folk Album of the Year in the UK. And I'm the only Zimbabwean artist that's there. Everybody else is either English, Irish, Welsh. And I'm sitting there and I said, God, where have I come from? And how everything has been a journey, to get to where I am today. But what did it take? It took commitment. Because when I was placed or nominated as a committee steering chairperson, I had no idea about a union. That was 2014. And you know what I did? In 2016, I went and enrolled at a music business school at the Midland State University. That was my first degree, and I was 36 years old. I went there for 4 years, leaving family behind, go for vacation school because we do blocks. I don't know if you do block release in Nigeria or in another community, but where you do 3 weeks of school and then you go back, 3 weeks of school and then you go back. So there's a lot of knowledge that's being packed. You go back, you do assignments, you do assessments and all that. 2016 until 2018. 2018, I graduated with my honors degree. And again, because I'm still hungry for more knowledge, I'm still hungry for more. During that time, I applied for my master's degree. And I remember sitting with 5 other colleagues from my class, and we are just throwing applications everywhere. But out of the 5 of us, I'm the only one that completed at least 5 applications and got offered a place in 5 universities in the UK, Sheffield, Westminster, SOAS. And there I was, spoiled for choice on where to go. So the determination that you must have, the drive to remain consistent, is what sells whatever you're doing. Mine is music, but what is yours? If you're designing, at some point when you stop along the way, people forget. Similarly, in music, if you stop along the way, people forget who you are, who you were, and even your training or your abilities. If you're not practicing, they fade away. So you need to keep moving. And those are the things that I kept doing. And there was a point when I left Zimbabwe in 2019 that people were like, oh, where did she go? She just disappeared. And someone in the UK telling me, you left Zimbabwe and you'd built such a name. I lived on music 150%. I never reported for any other job in an office somewhere. All my work was always music related. I'm playing at a corporate breakfast, I'm playing at a cocktail and working smart because I get in there and I play for 30 minutes and I go home. But I'm paid a month's work of money of a salary for everyone in my band. And when I moved to the UK, it meant restructuring, because I came at a time in the UK when a few months after I'd arrived, COVID came. And when COVID came, everything in the world stopped. And for us performers, venues closed and there was nowhere you could go to perform. And yet the jobs found me to perform online. I remember doing something for Comic Relief and doing it online. I remember doing something for another organization and doing it online. Coming to the UK, I came because of a scholarship. I was given a full scholarship to come to the UK. And during that period, the scholarship looked after me because it came at a time when there was supposed to be two of us. And in the end, it was just me. And that was the last scholarship for Canon Collins Trust for academics coming to the UK. So everything that we do, we must do with intent. Everything that we must do being very deliberate about where we want to go, because you can see the goal before you convince six other people in your band or in your company that's doing designing or where you're doing beauty products. Before you can convince six other people, you must see where you're going. And so the determination to keep going. It's like I grew up, my father was in the army, and every morning we would hear the army, cadets running. And once in a while, there was a time when I dreamt I could be joining the army as well. We would wake up in the morning and go and run with them. And they would do a 10-kilometer or 20-kilometer run. And that run, they would call it an endurance run. You're singing, you're running. When you get tired, you might slow down, but what you're not going to do is to stop completely, because you must get to the end point. And so in the careers that we've chosen, stopping is not an option unless you've died, you know? Stopping is not an option.
Hey, Nadia, can you please mute your mic?
I think they've muted. Sorry about that. And so stopping is not an option. And on that journey, the one thing that you can do and you can do right is to network. If you choose to walk on your own, that journey is going to be difficult. So what I would say is collaboration is our greatest strength. When we come together, sharing ideas, sharing skills, and supporting one another, we open doors that for some people seemed like they were closed. Because the next person that you're talking to has probably been on that journey before you were. And talking to them, networking with them allows you to have that door opened before you have to go and break or create another door. We grow stronger, louder, and more powerful when we're together. My journey in music has taught me that no woman can or will rise alone. We rise by lifting each other. It's okay for you to step on my shoulders and rise and see what's happening on the other side of the fence. So let us continue building networks and forming alliances and supporting one another so that every woman's talent, potential can shine. I remember saying to Bola last week, a candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. When we light each other's candle, we create our own sunlight. We create the biggest light in the room that will help other people see. Because when women stand alone, they will survive. But when we stand together, we will rise. And collaboration, these are just quotes that I'm just going to give you, is not just teamwork, but it is the courage to say, Bola's success is my success. For me, I struggled because there was not enough women in my circle to stand on or to walk with me. And the one thing that I told myself when that light of day, came was that I would be the stepping stone. I don't remember how many women I've given a stepping stone because I don't count. Once they've gone and moved on, they've moved on. And it is my hope that they also carry on being, the stepping stone for other sisters, for other children. Because strength is powerful, but shared strength, it's unstoppable. And the beauty about it is when we know that we can count on each other in the networks that we've created, it's very easy to find solutions to the challenges that we have. Sometimes all it takes is a phone call. You know how they say pride comes before a fall? If you hold things to yourself and say, if I tell Bola or if I tell Aku about it, Aku is going to have a laugh. But at least if they are going to have a laugh and give me a solution, it's better than for me to just hide. And again, I'm working on an assumption that they're going to laugh. So in our society, it is important that we build a network of women, not only those that will lift you up, but those that you can also lift up. Because our journey as a woman is lighter when our sisters are walking beside us and they're walking with us. And that is critical to always remember that in everything that we're doing musically, I would say when we collaborate, we create a rhythm. And that rhythm will be a rhythm that of courage, of unity, and all sorts of possibilities. I've mentioned the countries that I've been to, but in those countries, the one thing that was a takeaway for me has been that I can still check on Elizabeth in Malawi. I can still check on Vicky in Kenya and say, where are you? Because sometimes they are looking, they've forgotten, they're thinking you just passed by in their lives and left some nuggets. But it's also good that if you're a leader, a mentor, you go back. And if you're a sister that's learning something, don't just come into a workshop, a training session, and write notes. Go back to those notes. Ask Bola, there's that thing that you said. Can I ask a question? Because who knows? I may just open a door. I'm not Nigerian, I'm not Malawian, but I might know someone who might open that door for you. I met a girl in India when I took my son to India. One of my boys had a heart problem. And I went to India for his open heart surgery in 2013. And somehow the media got the wind that there is a musician in hospital with her son. And she had to auction her guitar and do things to bring her son over because her medical insurance was not enough. We woke up one day in the whole hospital, they had to move flowers to another department of the hospital because after that newspaper article, gifts were coming to the hospital. So my son was told if he wants to study something in India, he's got a place in uni in India. And that was because of one man who had been connected to me by another person. And then he sent a journalist to the hospital and they wrote an article about it. One person. The next thing I'm being asked before you leave India, can you perform at this hotel? Whatever will be raised there is yours and for your son's recuperation when you go back home. I met a young musician from Cameroon who was a backing singer. She was studying nursing in India. If I tell you I'm still in contact with Rosa from 2013 to this day, I have become that person that she goes to and says, I'm feeling like this. This is what's going on. How do I do this? I'm looking for a job. And we're doing applications together. And so, as a network, I'm so happy to be on this network. Thank you so much, Bola. I'm calling this a network already. I don't know a lot of you, but I want to believe that this is just the beginning of a journey. And I'm happy to be talking to any one of you and assisting in any way we can possible to become to becoming who you are meant to be. And a part of it is that you are going to adopt other people that will grow you. But on the other hand, you have to be willing to shed off some people that are not going to grow you. Because sometimes we're comfortable in spaces, and yet it's spaces with people that are happy to see us in the same position. No growth, no development, no success. And then we're sometimes in situations where we have people that love us very much, but are not comfortable to see us rise. This can be in a marriage, this can be in a relationship, this could be wherever. So, what's important is when you have sisters around you, mentors and mothers around you, they help you see things from a different trajectory. My phone's battery is becoming low, so I'm going to turn it the other way. I've just connected it to charge. Is that okay? Can you see me okay? Yeah. So sorry about that. I didn't charge it on the flight to Paris. So I'm just saying what's important is that the beauty, like what Doctor was saying, uh, the beauty of the current age we're in is in the access we have. There was a time when all we could do was find information from a library, from a newspaper that comes every day, and if you can't read it, you have to wait until the end of the week. But the younger generation has everything on their fingertips. The amount of money and data that we spend scrolling on TikTok on things that don't build us is the same amount of money that could help us develop networks that will grow us. And so, for every time that you're on social media, we're not saying don't do it. When you do it, but start learning to include things that grow you. It could be in the form of a podcast, it could be in the form of just watching something that grows the way you speak, that grows the way you articulate yourself, that grows your business, whatever business you're trying to achieve. Now, I'm just going to maybe leave us with, if that's okay, maybe 2 or 3 more quotes. Is that okay? True leadership is not rising above others. Right, there we go.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I've already said when women stand alone, they survive. When they stand together, they rise.
Yeah.
For me, it resonates because when we are in a collective, we easily lift each other. In any community that we're in, we become a stronger force. That's why even our governments worry about a critical mass, because a critical mass is the numbers that can move, mindsets, shift mindsets. And when we are in networks to collaborate like this, we have so much power. So it's important that in everything that we do it in collaboration. It is also important that we remain grounded in whatever faith we believe in. Remain grounded. I believe in God. And I believe that in everything that we do, when you wake up in the morning, there is a faith that I'm following. And in that faith, it allows me to speak to my maker and put my problems before them. So it's important to remain grounded to your faith. It's also important to remain grounded to your roots. Because the one thing that I've realized that sells for me in the UK as a Zimbabwean child is me remaining true to my Zimbabwean roots and not, trying to be somebody that I'm not. I sat in a room with over 200 people on Tuesday, holding even for the nominees were given our awards, holding it and looking around me and thinking, there is no other Black child in this room but me. And yet I sang in my language. I played my traditional instruments. All I did in a business sense was to do everything in the way that business, everywhere in the world is looking at it to be presented, but remaining true to who I am, remaining true to my roots. When we share our opportunities, we're multiplying our possibilities. No woman's voice is too small. Your voice is not small. My voice is not small. But when we're together, our voices become a force that cannot be ignored. I will leave you with that for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I've really loved your presentation. Your presentation has also left a keynote, a key drive in our lives. It has really, really left something in our lives that do not allow people around you to judge you. You've actually said many quotes that have actually like brought us all together. Because we're running short of time, I just wanted to ask our audience if any one of us has any question that we can ask her.
So if that's okay, can I go first?
Yes,
I
you can.
I am just going to say to Edith, thank you so much for joining, because Edith actually just arrived Paris. She actually was just dropping her bag in the hotel, then she joined. Thank you so so much. I met her once at a concert that she was actually performing for refugees, and the voice was power. And I was asking some people like, what is she talking about? And they were actually translating. It was just magic. So meeting you again, I'm like, oh gosh, I met her again. No, she must not go this time. And I'm glad that we were able to connect and you're here today. You said some things, and that actually set the space is set for me. You said we must remain grounded. It's not it's to remain grounded is not an easy task. And I'm sure in all of those your journey, you must have got to a point whereby you had to make that decision of, okay, I am Edith, but should I just step back or should I keep going? How did you navigate those moments?
Um, it's the hardest thing, you know. They say practice what you preach, but sometimes it's the hardest thing to do. Because, you know, in union work, for example, it can become very volatile and political. Currently, we've had a big issue on issues of royalties in the country. And somebody came for me, attacking me in my personal capacity. Oh, she's doing this because she wants to claim this position. And I'm thinking, I'm in the UK. I am Zimbabwean slash British now. My family is here. But why am I doing this? You know, you start asking yourself these questions. Why am I doing this? Because do I even need to be attacked? But then what grounds me is the passion. You know, when you do something with a passion, it's dangerous in a good way because then nothing can deter you. When you do something because it's trending, it's easy to just drop it, you know, when it becomes too hot, you drop it and you run and you find something else. But when you're doing something because that's your passion, I started singing in front of audiences when I was 5 years old, hiding under the table in front of the pulpit at a New Year's Eve in my grandmother's church. And somebody came to me with my grandmother and said, this child is going to be big. But I never imagined what that was. I never imagined that I'd live off this career. I never imagined that my pulse will be the rhythm of music. And when I sing, I make people cry and I make people celebrate because it's a passion. So, because it's a passion, the foundation that's underneath there, even when I want to stop, I cannot. So, whatever we choose to do, even if it started as something interesting because my neighbor is doing, you need to have a passion for it. I mentioned earlier that you need to see the goal beyond the now, beyond 2 years. You need to have a very clear vision that people will say, I don't think that will ever happen. I'll just share that when I was 14, we were having holiday lessons and I was walking with two friends from a school nearby home. And Star, the other lady, said, oh, I'm going to be a teacher. And Nitai said, I think I'm also going to be a teacher. And I said, I want to be a musician. They both looked at me and Star said, I don't think that's possible. Even my mother said, you're intelligent. Why don't you do nursing, teaching, a doctor, a profession that's got a pension, that's got security? And I said, I want to do music. And my dad said, just let her, because the passion is. So I think it is that passion
That's the drive. You know, when your passion becomes your pulse, even when you're sleeping, Bola is thinking, right, how do we get to Senegal? How do we get to Nigeria? And how do we get these 15 people that we want to bring to this? Because that's your passion. I don't know if Dr. Liz also thinks the same, but yeah, that's how I feel.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Akuzike, yeah.
All right, thank you so much. I think I'll just ask the last question so that we can wind up because we are at the end. Okay, I feel like music industry is an industry that is actually demanding for a woman, not only like in that role, but being in that leadership position whereby you're leading Zimbabwean music, we are seeing you're conducting workshops. What are the systems or the habits that enable you to sustain this life without having burnouts? Because sometimes you go like, how am I going to sustain this? How am I continuing doing this? But what is still keeping you like driving you forward apart from the passion that you already have in this field? But this field is actually like demanding a lot. So can you just share an experience that sometimes life becomes hectic for us? Sometimes you feel like maybe I can't manage this. How best can we like adapt and do better? What advice can you give to the young generation?
Okay, thank you. I think what's critical in everything, maybe that I should have mentioned, is having the discipline. Because without discipline, we're nothing. Because discipline tells you when to wake up and when to go to bed. Discipline tells you how to conduct yourself professionally. Discipline tells you how to become the professional that you want to be. Now, when we lack the discipline, especially in a lifestyle like mine, where I'm saying on Tuesday I was at an award ceremony that was in Manchester, 4 hours away from my house. And then getting back to my house, and we were moving. From yesterday, we've been moving house, moving house. And then from there, I'm jetting to Paris. Today, I've just arrived. The discipline is that as soon as I'm done what we're doing right now, I'm actually going to sleep. The discipline to have self-care in this, because when we're dealing with finance, when we're dealing with people, when we're dealing with organizations, we're also dealing with people that are bringing their own stuff into the space. And if we don't manage that in terms of the taking off all that and saying, right, now I need some me time. Just that it's a discipline. It just doesn't work around the discipline to be professional in the work. The discipline to self, the discipline to self-care. Knowing that when you wake up in the morning, I need these moments, even where we have mothers and we have children at home. The kids know when I close that door, it's mom's me time. So having that helps me recenter, to remember where I am, especially for us that are always moving, to also remember that in this moment, I just need to breathe. It's taking a moment to breathe. It's a discipline. So I think discipline is important. It's pertinent.
All right. Thank you so much. We have really learned a lot from you. Thank you so much for saying yes to the panel. It was a tough time, you're traveling, but we're really grateful for having you. We have actually learned a lot. And maybe for some of us who want admissions in the UK for our masters, we can also reach out because this is a platform whereby we can connect. Thank you so much. So thank you so much to both our speakers, Dr. Elizabeth and Edith, for being our panelists. But before we conclude, can I please leave the floor to the founder of Duchess? Ma, this is your time. We give you the space whereby you can conclude this panel discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hazel. Thank you to the two speakers. I have really, actually, you got me confused a bit because I started changing what I really wanted to talk about because I could relate to everything you said. And I will just have to keep my shot because obviously we spend so much time. And that topic on becoming the woman I was, for me, it was more like describing a butterfly, coming out of the cocoon and has to unshed. I might not get it right. It has to unshed before it could become that beautiful butterfly you see.
Mm.
For me, growing up, I was from a polygamous family, and my mom was this kind of. She just wanted everyone to be okay. She didn't realize that at some point there's this kind of thing. You have to protect this part of you. Maybe you have to protect this. As far as she's concerned, even though my parents had a lot, my dad has a lot of wife. It's okay. We're all children. However, for me getting to the UK, I had to learn a different kind of life. It took me a while to understand that even though you want everyone to like you, it's not necessary for everyone to like you.
Exactly.
I had a lot of emotions into everything I do. And actually, that got me in a big trouble because I got married based on emotions, based on, I don't want his friend to laugh at him. So I'd rather stay instead of leaving.
Mm.
I'm not going to go deep into everything because of time. And when I left that marriage, I had a lot of friends. I had a lot of people, and because I was selling jewelries, I was selling clothes. So I have invites of parties. Like in a week, I go to parties like 4 days. Imagine in the UK, and people love me. But I think it was Dr. Elizabeth or is it that talked about fading away.
Mm.
When I got married, it was so bad, and so it was a very bad experience for me, and I got depressed. And in that moment, I lost all my friends except one. No one asked of me. And I was always in that house, all my curtains closed. And I feel like I just want to satisfy, I just want peace of mind. However, I lost myself in the process.
Mm.
I went to uni, I couldn't go for my graduation because I don't want him to be upset. A lot of things that I was doing, everything started dropping. And actually, people forgot about me.
Mm.
I didn't realize that's possible because I feel like I'm
Mm.
this special kind of woman. No one is going to forget about you. You're there. But no, sorry. No one remembers me. But there was one particular day I decided to take charge of my life. I didn't tell anyone, not my parents, not my friends, no one. I just called the helpline and I said, I need help. Help me now. Picked my kids and my bag and move on. The first thing I did when I got to where I am now was got a pen. And I'm like, what are the 5 things that I did not complete based on that relationship and that path that I followed? I wrote them down and I'm like, okay, that's where I'm going to start from.
Mm.
I called my school. Hello, I finished 4 years ago, but I didn't actually did my graduation. They were like, oh,
Mm.
come on in. I did that. Oh, I'm not driving. Okay, I need to do my theory. I did. I passed it.
Mm.
Then I called we have this big hospital next to my house, and I'm like, look, I've just finished my graduation now. I'm looking for a job. I made up my mind. I don't have issues with anyone doing any kind of job, but for me, I'm like, I am not going to do some certain kind of jobs. Maybe I shouldn't mention it so it doesn't look awkward. I know what I want, and I called, and there was a lady that picked up the phone, and I'm like, look, I've only just finished uni. I've done my graduation. I want to volunteer. And she was like, okay, what did you study? I said, business information technology. So what do you want to volunteer as? I said, as an admin. Why?
Mm.
You did business information technology. You want to study, you want to volunteer as an admin. It doesn't tally.
Mm.
We have an IT system engineer role. Come and start. I'm like, she doesn't even know me. But she gave me that opportunity.
Mm.
And as at that time, it was just me, myself, my kids, my affirmation. I had to start writing to decide, to determine what happens to my mental health, because I realized if I don't keep going, I'm going to end up in a wrong place.
Mm.
For everything that happens to me, if I meet you on the road, I'm going to go, I have, I have a folder. I'm going to write there that, oh, I met Edith. This is what we spoke about. However, this is what I think about what we spoke about. That was the only way I could express myself. That was the only way my brain, my mental health can keep being okay. Okay, started this job. I found myself in an office with 8 male colleagues. I am just coming from an abusive relationship. Found myself in front of 8 men, white men. I couldn't do it. But I'm like,
Mm.
okay, let's start. So that imposter syndrome versus that fear, they were all nice people, but I just could not. I worked there for a year, but I worked in my own head in the sense that I couldn't, even when they say hello to me, I'm like, I seem very defensive. Yeah, hello. Yeah. you know, while I was doing that, I was also trying to find myself. I had no mentors. I was even thinking about it the other day in the kitchen, and I remember because it got to a point I started listening to Oprah Winfrey, going online. I could, there was a point I could actually say word for word some of the things that she says to herself. And Eva Dumbani, I love her so much. Those two
Mm.
people, they are I go online, listen to them. So they were actually my virtual mentors. Those were the things I listened to. Then I listened to, oh, what is her name? I can't remember her name now. She did something on pathology. If I remember, I would. So it was from that video. She talked about how your grandmother's story becomes your mom's story, becomes your story.
Sorry. Mm.
And then I decided that I don't want that to be my story. I know my grandmother's story. I know my mom's story. I know my sister's story. And I am not going to make this my story.
Mm.
I became an enemy, even to my family, to my mom, my sister. Oh, she's so weird. Oh, she's not. I'm like, okay, that's fine. There was a time they don't talk to me because I'm like, look, I just want to change this narrative. This is not me.
Mm.
I closed my Facebook for 2 years then because I'm like, I just want to find this part. I don't know how it looks like, but I have to find it. And I remember when I decided to reactivate my Facebook, I changed my name to Duchess Bolaji Odinega. I have some of my friends come to me. They were like, "Oh, what is Duchess? What is that?" Just you're a joke. People start calling me things. But what happened to me was it was one of those moments where I was alone. I make sure my children sleep early so that I can have my me time. And I was listening. You would know the music about Lord something. Like, I want to be a royal, royal. It's not in my blood. It's not in your blood. You can call me Queen Bee, but and I'm like, oh, actually, yeah. I want to be someone else. I want to be another kind of person.
Mm.
I didn't really know it as unbecoming at that point. All I know is I want to become somebody else.
Mm.
Before I could become that person, I have to go through a process. And before me to achieve that moment, I have to change my name. So I called myself Duchess. And yes, there were a lot of backlash. Oh, are you related to this person? I'm not. I'm a Duchess of my own world. Whether you like it or not, this is me. This is Duchess. And one thing that happened to me in that process is I have to learn how to be grounded in myself.
Mm.
Because even at now, I have a lot of my friends. They will say, "Oh, you're so weird. You know, you don't use a lot of makeup. There's a way you talk to that person." And I look at them like, "Oh, okay, really? Is that right?" But Duchess, I have to make a decision to be Duchess, to be myself.
Mm.
So whenever you hear my name, there are some set of integrity values respect that you would have to add to it, because you know that when you want to make, if you want to have a conversation or you want to have a collaboration with Duchess, you know she has some set of values that she follows, and you have to either work alongside her that way. It was a very, very tough journey, and I wouldn't want to go. Maybe some other time we will put so much pressure into it, really. But this unbecoming for me was really, really hard. And that word, remaining grounded. And I said this word actually in our last meeting as well. That Oprah said that you have to be filled from the inside. I can't say it very well. That you have to know yourself and be full from within. And that is what actually show your beauty from outside. You have to know who you are. Be fully grounded in who you are. It doesn't matter how the next person sees you. You know, it doesn't matter how many failures. And like you said, Edith, so far you don't stop. You keep going. There will be a lot of challenges. A lot of people are going to drop along the line. Your best friend will drop. Your families will drop. Your mentors will drop. A lot of people that actually would hurt you so much, they will drop. But you know what, girl? You have to keep going. You know, and for me, it took a long process for me. And where I am at the moment, when I reflect back on some things that has happened to me, I'm like, how did I get here? I realized that I could say that I'm a new person. Some people will say to me that, oh, you're so British now. Your mindset is so British. I mean, the way you think, you're no more like, I'm like, okay. Only if you know what I went through. Only if you know how to live in the UK without food. Only if you know how to live in the UK with nowhere to sleep with your children. Only those periods that you could sit right in front of me and tell me my own story. On becoming the woman you are, Lisa asked a question earlier that, oh, for us that has not really become. For me personally, you can think you're not becoming yet. But if you think about the things that you're doing at the moment, on becoming that woman you are, yeah, it comes with experiences. It comes with it comes with knowledge. I mean, education. It comes with a lot of things. But you see younger women as well, younger ladies achieving a lot. And when they tell their story, Edith, you're talking about singing at the age of 5 and determined at the age of 14, saying, this is going to be me. You have learned that from the age of 5, saying, this is who I am going to become as a woman. When you were a teenager, you didn't let the peer pressure, the men, oh, that my friend looks fair or something, you didn't let that actually determine where you're going. You were full on it and you achieved it. So for me, and for what I would leave with you, is for you to become that woman and become who you are at the moment. You have to be fully grounded and know who you are. One thing I want you to go with today is sit down and think about it. Who am I? And what impact and who do I want to become in this world? Write it down. Keep reading it to yourself and work towards it. And I'm sure as sisterhood, we're all going to grow and shine together. I will leave it as that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was quite time limiting. It was short, but
Yeah.
we have really learned something from what you have actually presented on and becoming who you really want to be. Thank you so much for also speaking to us this evening.
Oh.
No,
We can't hear you. You muted yourself. You're muted, Akuzike.
Yes, I'm back. Okay, so do we have anyone with a question? A quick one?
Um, I just want to add, well, people are thinking of questions that, even in the mindset of knowing, for example, what you're saying, Duchess, on, I knew I wanted to be a singer, but there are things that I had to
Go.
unbecome. You know what I mean? Going against the tide, because the tide says at this age you will get married and you do this and you do this in that way.
Yeah.
And having people in their families saying, you cannot play with her because of the things that. So you become somebody else to become,
Yeah.
you
That's
know?
the
You become somebody else to be where you are, because to have that resilience, it means you're saying, I'm not going to be defined by the template.
yeah.
The template that we're raised to become. Yeah, I don't know if we have any other questions I could. I was just adding on.
Okay, I think
We
there are no
just
hands.
to let you know we've only got 10 minutes to finish. So yes.
Okay.
Oh, it might be pasta. It might be macaroni. It can be all sorts of.
Okay, thank you so much for meeting, Mike. Thank you. Okay, so I just want to ask you like one question after hearing the story, after how the Duchess name came in. I just want to know what led you to the vision of having a great platform like this one, for having a foundation, for feeling that maybe you can empower someone. What actually led you to that vision? So that's just my question, which I want you to give me just a clear view of that, regardless of. Yes, I just want to know that.
Thank you for that question. In the process of me finding myself, when I started to write, I wanted to write about my immediate situation. I realized that I couldn't write about my immediate situation without writing about my childhood. The
Mm-hmm.
story would not be complete.
Mm-hmm.
While I started writing about my childhood, it was then I started discovering some of a pathology, those patterns. Oh, actually, that's true. That happens to my mom, happened to my sister. And from there, out of curiosity, I wanted to find stories of Black women like myself that have gone through something similar like me, that could give me that assurance that, Bola, don't worry, you're doing well, you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
That was like 2014. I couldn't find any story. There was no stories. Most of the stories I found is, oh, I'm just going to use your name, Edith, as an example. Oh, we saw that musician Edith. She was wearing a lovely gold. So, what does Edith do?
Yeah.
What has she overcome? What has she,
Mm-hmm.
where was she coming from? I couldn't find those stories.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I felt like if I could sit right here looking for these kind of stories and I couldn't find it, I can imagine a lot of younger women like myself. Maybe if we have stories like that, some of us would not have fallen into some traps that we actually fell into.
Exactly.
So what I did, I started profiling women. I'm not sure if Walize is on this call. This is one thing I said to her as well. I started looking for women's name. I started looking for their job profile. I started putting it on. In fact, my brother was like, Bola, are you a charity? I'm like, don't worry. There's a mission here. I started putting their profile on just so that if that next woman, that next young lady that is in an abusive relationship, or that next lady that wanted to become a doctor and she's being told you cannot become a doctor, or that next lady that wants to become a top police officer, she could find some story that would relate to our story and
Mm-hmm.
she would be able to build from that story, you know. And that was what I started to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started doing affirmation as well. I do a lot of affirmation because that took me out of so many things. I have a lake next to my house. If you see the story I wrote about that lake, because it was a lake. Every time I put my children to sleep, I looked at, just go there, just drop inside it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm like, no, I'm not going to drop inside it because I have better things to do
Mm-hmm.
to achieve in life. So I started writing, I am beautiful. I am enough. If you
Mm-hmm.
look at the first 2 years of Duchess, it was more of quotes, affirmations. I will take your picture, Edith. I don't know you, but put your picture there and I'm saying, I am enough. I'm actually talking to myself through yours, to you, to your image.
Mm. Mm.
I am wonderfully curated. I just I just affirm that. And even if you look at my print magazines now, you will see that in every publication I do, there's that affirmation quote high in it, where I
Mm.
display it alongside women.
Mm.
So that was how the journey started. And we started doing that. It was launched. And moving forward, like 4 years ago, I decided that, okay, I've been in the UK for so long. I want to meet other African women like myself. I want to hear their stories. I want to hear what they do. I know Akuziki is already texting me. Just give me this minute. I'll be out of it. Then we decided to start doing celebrating International Women's Day. But instead of celebrating International Women's Day in the UK, let us go to Africa, an African country. Let's sit down with our sisters. Let's listen to their story too. Let's tell our own story. Let's bring our wealth of experience to them. Let them share theirs to us as well. And let's see how we could build Africa. Because I will keep saying it. Whether we like it or not, we want to hear that or not. The future is Africa. And the future
Okay.
is actually female.
It is.
So is it that you're part of it or you're not?
It
And they
is.
say a drop of water make an ocean. Let our drop of water also drop. We never know the kind of ocean. We never know where we're going to find ourselves. But let's start
Mm.
building something. So what we did was, and we went to Rwanda first, because Rwanda has the highest rate of women in leadership at that moment. And we got into Rwanda. We met with some of their top women, let's put it that way. We collaborated. It was fantastic. We did sightseeing. It was really nice. The feedback was good. Then we went to Kenya. Before we left Rwanda, there was a night I sat down with some of our sisters. I don't know if one or two of them are on the platform, and they were like, "But like, you're not going to live like that. You can't just live like that. Something has to still carry us forward." Then we decided that, okay, what? Okay, maybe like a charity, maybe like a foundation. So we started thinking about it, and that day to the next morning, I'm like, okay, Duchess Africa, and we were like, oh, because this is conceptualized in Rwanda, it's going to be registered in Rwanda, but we couldn't achieve that. But I'm like, okay, then we go to Nigeria to register it, and we take it from there. That was how Duchess started, and we have been to Rwanda now. We've been to Kenya, we've been to Senegal. For every country that we've been to, I I always make families there. For all of those countries, there are places where I could just go because I have sisters there, I have brothers there that love what I've done, that we work together, we collaborate. And some of them even come to the UK. We meet together, we talk and do things. However, one thing that I started recently, I don't, I'm not going to tell you that was intentional. It just started was bringing young ladies like Akuzeke together. It wasn't intentional. It was something that just happened. I started with Lisa. I met Lisa in Kenya. Fantastic speaker. She is fire. Young
Mm.
lady.
Mm.
There are some questions she asked that day that I had to turn my head like, okay, who is this lady? And I
Mm.
followed her since then, since 2024. She is still here and she is one of our representative now for Kenya. All of it, I just started putting some of these young girls together and said, okay, let's look, girls, you are younger. I can decided to make this platform very posh, where the only people you're going to see here are going to be posh, 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 posh. But what impact do we want to create? Who are we
Exactly.
really telling those stories to?
Mm.
As you are growing, you have to not. I don't know, maybe it's Dr. Elizabeth. They said something earlier, but in my head, I call it paying it forward.
Yeah.
You know, when am able, I have the capacity to support you in something, don't worry, just pay it forward to that next young lady.
Mm.
And for that platform, that is what I have those platform for. At the moment, we have, I can see as Akuzeke, Malawi. We have Lisa and Vicky, Kenya. We have Walise from Cameroon. We have Moffat as well from Nigeria. And we're going to be moving like that. We're going to be moving from country to country. We're going to be supporting our young ladies. And we also are being supported. I have to say, Dr. Elizabeth is one of my mentors. I can call her at 12 a.m. and say, more. something just happened. I'm so sorry. He's like, no, don't be sorry, but this is what you should have done. I'm like, yes, I know, ma. But you know, so I also have powerhouse that looked after me. So it's very important for me to also pour back and give it to the younger ones. So I'm not sure if I've answered the question, but
Yes, you have answered it.
thank you.
Thank you so much. I think you have also tackled maybe other people who also had some questions. You have also tackled it all. Thank you so much for being great people on the panel. We have actually learned a lot of unbecoming who we were. We have moved from our comfort zones because I feel like mentorship is actually important. This is like the actual mentorship that we actually need. It looks
Yeah.
like maybe not many, but that impact you have made in our lives, it's not small. Actually big because you have motivated someone today. So just want to say thank you for being there for us, for saying yes to the call, but also thank you for the audience who are actually part of this great event. We just want to say thank you. We appreciate your presence. Thank you so much. But also thank you, Ma, for organizing this platform for us. Indeed, we are really women on a mission. And thank you so much that you gave me a chance to be a moderator this evening. Before we
You're
go, maybe you have any other announcements, but also those people who are not part of the Duchess, we have a QR code whereby you can scan, you can join our WhatsApp group whereby you can hear like updates, you can hear links, you can hear what's happening next. You can also share maybe your story on our group. So we would actually want to invite you to our group whereby you can have other updates on the Duchess. So, ma'am, you can also say the Egypt conference or anything and we can wind it up from there.
oh,
Thank you so much.
thank you so much. Thank you for that. Oh, the Egypt conference. I have to say this is a little bit emotional for me, but we would have to cancel it till next year. And there are reasons for that. There's been a lot of issues around the world at the moment, and I'm sure that some of you would have actually, obviously, hear about them. And while it took us this long to cancel it, was because we were still open. Because some of our delegates already have tickets, they've already booked hotel. However, we have to think about our safety because there's no point traveling. And yes, maybe the first person traveled and they came back successfully was okay. And we traveled, and we have to be very careful. So we would move Egypt event till next year. However, I have good news still. The good news is we're having Duchess Leadership Summit here in the UK. I'm trying to organize it in the Parliament. And I would actually, after this event, we're going to share the information and the flyers and the dates. And, instead of us not going anywhere this year, we might as well you might as well come to our house, come to the UK. Let us host you. The next year we will go to Egypt because it's better to be safe than sorry. I don't want us to get to Egypt and we get stuck, or we have any bad incident. It won't be good for the brand. So we might as well just keep it that way. I don't know what you think about it. I'm really, really sorry for the news. It took me a long time. You see, I didn't even want to mention it until as as they get asked again. Is we've had a lot of people that look so forward to that event. However, our safety comes first. So I really apologize for that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. So this is the end of our panel discussion. Thank you so much for everyone who has actually joined, and most many thanks to our panelists. Thank you so much. Have impacted us a lot. We are going to exit. So we're wishing you enjoy the rest of the day, enjoy the rest of the evening. Have a good evening. Have a good night. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
all. Thank you for joining. I
you.
really appreciate it. Thank you to the speakers.
Thank
Thank you
you
so
very
much.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.